There's a class that turns madness into power, another that uses magic and magecraft to summon monsters to fight for them. And then there's a class that reaches their peak by riding living creatures as mounts. But what if you combined all three of those, and added an extra dash of absurdity? That's where the Foreigner class comes in. Foreigners are heroic spirits connected to forces beyond human comprehension, often tied to the eldritch horrors described by H.P. Lovecraft. Honestly, I don't even know where to start with this class. Last week, I talked about how cursed the Lancer class is with their infamous Lancer Curse. A few weeks before that, I went on about archers who don't even use bows or arrows. Now I'm going to talk about something a little different. No, I'm not diving into trivia about this class. There are way better explanations out there than this video. But while researching the Foreigner class, I came across some small, weird, and unique details about it that caught my attention. If you've got thoughts, join the discussion in the comment, because honestly, I'm just as lost as you are. The first thing I want you guys to notice is that the Foreigner class outright confirms the Cthulhu mythos is canon in the Nasaverse. Yep, the outer gods are real. They don't exist exactly within our world, but in another plane of existence, and they've decided to peek into our little corner of reality. This reminds me of those mind-bending videos where space is portrayed as a giant piece of cloth, and some massive monster is peeking in but can't actually enter because it's just too big or something. The vibe of this is pretty obvious when you look at the appearance of the heroic spirits themselves, especially those tied to outer gods or entities beyond human comprehension. Just take a look at their designs. Okay, so first, about their card class. I only realized this while diving into research about Lovecraftian horror. The Foreigner class cards aren't just made to look mysterious. At first I thought the hooded figures and their weird, unexplainable aura powers were just your standard, mysterious character stuff. Nothing too deep. But looking closer, these class cards seem to take a lot of inspiration from Hastur, aka the King in yellow. Hastur is one of the great old ones from Lovecraft's Cthulhu mythos, probably one of the most enigmatic and unsettling gods in that universe. And when you think about it, this lines up with the first Foreigner we ever got, Abigail. Her connection to Sut Typhon, which is also implied to be Yog-Sothoth, another Lovecraftian being, fits perfectly. The Foreigner class cards might have initially been designed specifically for characters connected to Lovecraft's mythos, but as the Fate series expanded, they started adding more stuff into the Foreigner category. Now that was the card. The heroic spirits themselves are pretty unique. They start off looking relatively normal, well, as normal as you'd expect. But things get crazy once they tap into their Lovecraftian power. Their skin tones shift to all kinds of unnatural colors as they hit higher ascension levels. For example, Abigail Williams and Hokusai go full-on purple in their third ascensions. Jacques de Molay goes from pale to straight-up grey. And then there's Van Gogh. She starts out super red, like she's permanently sunburned, then turns bright blue, and finally ends up bone white with matching hair. This is such a cool concept to show that they are indeed foreign entities. It shows that how absurd a being can be with the number of changes that is not common in our world. By the time they hit their third ascensions, most of them barely look human anymore. I mean, technically they're still human, but it's like they're wearing something not human. Now, one funny thing I've noticed is they even ditch their shoes to really hammer home how close they are to their Lovecraftian power. It's a little weird, but it's a cool detail. One thing I really like is their eye colors. Almost all of them have blue eyes at some point, but when they go full Eldritch mode, their eyes get super wild. Not all of them, sure, but it's still a cool detail. Abigail, Hokusai, Van Gogh, and Molay all get that creepy glowing eye effect as part of their Eldritch transformation. Summer Abigail, on the other hand, flips the script. Her eyes go from red to blue as she steps away from her most Lovecraftian form. Meanwhile, young Guife keeps it simple with her classic blue eyes. So it got me thinking, why blue? Is there some hidden meaning behind it? I looked into the symbolism of blue in sci-fi, and the results were pretty interesting. Apparently, in sci-fi, blue is often used to represent futuristic, technological, or even alien and mystical elements. It's tied to things that feel advanced or otherworldly because it's rare in nature and has this cool, sterile vibe. The keywords here are alien and mystical, which fit foreigners perfectly since their powers come from outside our universe, kind of like a mix of alien and mystical energy. Coincidence? Maybe, maybe not. As for the non-blue eyes, I noticed another common color for foreigners. Gold. I think gold has two meanings here. First, it's often the eye color for altars, especially saber faces, so they probably didn't want to change it. Second, gold is strongly linked to divinity. When you look at characters like Koyanskaya, who has divine origins, or Wangina with divine aspects, it makes sense. It's a small detail, but it totally checks out. I've been talking about foreigners who use Lovecraftian powers, but what about the others? Well, aside from Wangina, they look pretty normal. No crazy skin color changes or anything like that. I mean, yeah, they look stronger and more complex as they change, but their transformations aren't nearly as wild as the Lovecraftian foreigners. To put it simply, most of them are just swapping into fancier outfits. Well, except for Koyanskaya. She grows tails, a lot of tails. Honestly, I'm not a big fan of this. Sure, the foreigner class could definitely use some development. The devs can throw in any kind of otherworldly beings and create whatever characters they want. But with the newer foreigners, the whole outer monster vibe feels lost. None of them have skin color changes anymore or even show signs that they're beings from another world. It's kind of a shame, you know? Foreigners should feel mysterious, something the world barely understands. But now, we've got an idol in Aoko who's basically just rocking her casual outfit. Don't get me wrong, I still like them, but it's just a bit disappointing. If you've seen my video where I break down theories about Servant Star rarities, I mentioned that the rarer the relic, the rarer the heroic spirit. This totally lines up with the rarity of the foreigner class because none of them are below 4 stars. Basically, it means they're insanely hard to summon in real life. I mean, come on. What kind of relic would you even need to summon someone who's made a pact with a cosmic entity beyond human understanding? Alright, so that was my take on their appearances. Now, let's shift over to their gameplay. Well, more like their class affinity. Foreigners have a pretty unique setup where they deal double damage to other foreigners. Sure, they have their own triangle of class affinities, but they're also weak to their own class and strong against it at the same time. At first, it feels kind of weird, like, why is that a thing? Now that I think about it, maybe it's a nod to how the Cthulhu mythos shows that these cosmic eldritch abominations often clash with each other. They can be so antagonistic that they're willing to fight among themselves. Plus, gods, especially the outer ones, tend to have their own territories. If you slap outer in front of God, it kind of implies they're stepping into someone else's domain or making pacts with heroic spirits to claim new territories. Basically, they're here to raid and conquer. So it makes sense that these cosmic beings would deal double damage to others in their class. They're fighting for dominance. Maybe it sounds a little out there, but that's the vibe I get. Talking about affinities, I had a chat with my friend about this, and he gave an answer that was, I don't know, kinda unique. First off, he said that the alter ego class, which usually consists of fused beings or mixed entities, is super effective against foreigners, who are eldritch abominations or alien beings in general. That kinda makes sense, I guess, but at the same time, he said that it feels like it contradicts a rule the story often emphasizes. Threats from outer space, aliens or beings beyond Earth's context, are supposed to be immune to the powers of Earth's gods. Why? He said it's because the power of Earth's gods isn't relevant or compatible with the divinity logic of beings from out there. He also said that a good example of this is Excalibur. Back then, Earth's gods couldn't do anything against Sephar, a ridiculously powerful alien. So the planet itself had to create a special sword, Excalibur, and give it to a human to deal with that threat. That's kinda confusing for me. I don't know. Let me know in the comment. Despite that, I think we can look at it from a more traditional angle. If you know the original alter egos, they were basically programs created by BB, so maybe it goes something like this. Foreigners lose to alter egos because most alter egos are like living programs in human form. Since they're basically programs, they're not as affected by the madness or mind-breaking powers that are foreigners' main strength. This lets them fight foreigners without losing their sanity. And if you look at examples like the Sakura 5 and their creator, they weren't exactly sane to begin with. So the whole drive you mad thing from foreigners doesn't really work on them. That gives them an edge when facing weird, otherworldly beings like foreigners. And the affinity between foreigners and pretenders is... honestly, I have no idea. Foreigners being effective against pretenders might have something to do with their mind-bending powers coming from beyond this world, while pretenders rely on identities rooted in this world. But how it all actually works, who knows? I'm not done with this class yet. I still want to talk about the members of this class because they're weird enough to deserve it, but not now. For now, click subscribe and I'll see you next time.